process of learning actually starts for a child? Is it, when they join for school? Is it their KG class? Where the gap lies, it's when the learning outcomes are not what is up to our expectations, and there's going to be a lot of reasons for that, a lot of factors that influence these learning outcomes. In their learning journey, in their learning process, they're going to be faced with multiple challenges. The more grade they go on to, the more complex subjects they are going to be facing. If the school is a safe place for them, is it very, is it appropriate for them? Is this a school appropriate for this particular child? When we think about a child and the whole process of learning, acquiring information, it's a very long process, and it gets modified, remodified. We learn, we unlearn. Think about ourselves when we were a child. The process of whole learning. We reach some barriers, we overcome it, we learn new things. So it's a long process, right? From birth till death, it's a very, very long process. So yeah, I mean, I would still like to ask one question to all the audience, and for now, I just want you to think of the answer. Think of what you think. It can be subjective. It can be anything. Just think of it. Think in whatever ways you feel so, and just keep the answer to yourself, because we'll be needing it further along. So I want you to think about a child. It could be yourself. It could be maybe if you have a child, about them, or the children that you have, met along the way. What do you think, or when do you think the process of learning actually starts for a child? Is it, when they join for school? Is it their KG class, or is it, or even more complex classes? Is it first grade, second grade, or do you think it's right after birth? Or do you think they learn maybe through, through from their parents who they first uh, get acquainted with, right? So let me know, what do you think? Where does the child's initial stages of learning, where does it start exactly? I would love to know what you guys think about. So I want you to think about this, and yeah, you can just, and we'll come to the point later. Right. So, like ma'am said, let me quickly introduce myself. Um, Okay. Yes, my name is Sonia. I am a special educator, and I've been working at Prayatna for the last 1 year. And throughout the journey, I've been very honored and humbled, to be honest. To work with a lot of little minds, and it's very interesting to see how they learn, how they grow, what inspires them. What might not inspire them, what comes in their way, how I can help them, and what might not be the best idea to help them. So I've seen a lot of things that has personally helped me understand them better, right? Because one child is not going to be another child, like another child. They're all different in their own ways. So it's a I get to, like I said, I get to learn something new every day when I work in this field. All right, so now moving on to our actual topic. So before we get into the actual topic, I wanted to quickly address something here, because even though India has really good data and statistics of children enrolling in education, it could be, we have a lot of policies. We have our right to education. We have our free education schemes as well, which exists, right? But where the gap lies, it's when the learning outcomes are not what is up to our expectations, and there's going to be a lot of reasons for that, a lot of factors that influence these learning outcomes, which we will come to. But yeah, for now, I want you to go through these statistics and see, the number of people who actually enroll, and there are going to be a lot of dropouts, and we'll come to the factors later. Yeah, and the second thing that I've mentioned here is how COVID has impacted, like, because it has been a whole era of what people went through, right? So coming to learning itself, yeah, it has made a lot of changes. How children perceive information, how much they're going to retain, how much they're going to reproduce later. Completely, I've seen it's like the pre-COVID and post-COVID learning era for children. And I think for a really long time, It is going to be a factor. I don't think people entirely, and I'm solely talking about education and the learning process. I don't know how much of it is going to be completely we can, bring back like before. But yeah, we'll be talking about what happened during these times as well and in depth of it. All right. Okay. Okay, so coming on to the main topic, understanding influences on learning outcomes. Okay, so we'll go through. So when you think of a child, I want you to understand like there are n number of things that might affect a child. There are n number of things that a child knows, and there are many things a child doesn't know. Right. So we're going to the depths of it, and what are the main reasons that can be a like a stepping stone for them, or that can be a barrier for them. Right. Okay. So firstly, and we'll move on to individual differences. All right. So, under individual differences, I want you to think of the personality of the child, right? It could be like even personality is a very broad term, right? But under that, I want you to think the kind of the child that they are. So, all throughout these points, I want you to think about the question that I asked in the very beginning, where their learning process starts. All right. So now coming on to personality, what kind of child they are? Are they a very introverted, or is it an extroverted child? Are they willing to learn more? Are they even interested in learning? Because when I talk about this interested in learning, do you think that starts at school? You take your child to LKG, you take them to grade one, you grade two. That's not where their schooling exactly starts, right? And that is not exactly where their interest in studying also starts. You cannot just expect a child to go to the first grade or LKG, UKG, whatever class, and then be seated, listen to your teacher for about 6 hours and then come back home, do the learning. That's not how it works. So a lot of factors affect. So that's the prerequisite. So, for a child to be interested in all of this process, they should be, they should get the experience or the exposure of this at home. This starts at home. That's the thing. Right. So, they should be motivated enough. They should get, they should, because children are like the very best, they're very good at repeating stuff what the adult does, what their parents does, what their grandparents does. So are they exposed to a crowd that is that who is who likes to learn, who likes to do things, who likes to explore, intellectually are they exposed to something, that all affects. Or are they not able to do that when they're in their 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, are they not exposed to a lot of academic areas, or just even the basics of things, like maybe when a child comes to starts the education at school, there are a few things that we would expect out of them. Like we would expect they know colors, maybe, because that's like very common, right? We expect them to know that, or maybe one or two colors. I'm not saying all 20, 15 colors I want them to know. Maybe one or two colors they should know it, right? So the process of the learning that starts at home, how prepared they are for a classroom, that all matters here, right? And now moving on to health and well-being, this is a very you know uh, very, I mean, not a basic thing, but I still wanted to incorporate it, because health and your child go through these day-to-day sickness, or any kinds of maybe allergies, sickness, any kind of flu, that also may be a factor that is going to change their learning outcomes, right? All right, now I'm going to move on. Now I'm going to talk about cognitive abilities. Right. So, when we talk about cognitive abilities, I would talk about cognition first, right? Uh, During a process, like be it anything, during in a 24 hours in a day, we go through a lot of, I would call it a lot of processes. It could be like, from morning you do your brushing, you do your bathing, you do your dressing, you get ready, you go to work or you go to school. A lot of, we did in every day we go to a lot of processes. But for us to be able to do it independently, accurately, effectively, in a way that we manage our time, we're able to juggle things, we're able to prioritize one above the other, we're able to, if we come across a problem or a maybe some kind of issue, yeah, any kind of problem, you're able to solve it properly, you're able to analyze it, you're able to think it out properly, you're able to analyze it. So that's where cognition comes, right? So for a child to be able to, because in their learning journey, in their learning process, they're going to be faced with multiple challenges. The more grade they go on to, the more complex subjects they are going to be facing, right? So this is very important, where their cognition is at the right, is it's average and it's working averagely, right? So because for them to be able to attend, they have to have good attention focus, they have to have a very good working memory, they should be able to store their information, right? And then they move on to other tasks without forgetting what we previously discussed, like that. And moving on to, they would need really good retention of the facts, the concepts, whatever they learned, the good retention, the comprehension of what is being asked of them, right? Because they might be faced with multiple instructions, multiple concepts, throughout the day you learn different subjects. So comprehending that, storing it in their minds, recollecting it later when it is needed, is all part of your cognition. So when you see a child struggling with maybe one task, and then hardly they have a hard time trying to cope up with one task, and then comes another task, and maybe another task, and you can visibly see the child struggling. So that's when we might want to look closely and see if there are any red flags. Are we looking at any kind of cognitive deficits, and so on? So ultimately, because this is going to affect your learning outcome. All right. Okay. Now, socio-economic status of the child or the family that they belong to. Right. Okay. When we talk about socioeconomic status, we talk about the situation that children come from, the kind of economic backgrounds that they hold, their parents hold, the community they come from. Because if a child is not able to go to a good school, a good not able to get hold of the proper resources that he or she should be able to, that is going to be a barrier. Because in this era, and in this in this century, a lot of it has been learning has been turned. Because if I am talking about myself, I think I had my first experience of digital learning, something of a mix of both, when I was maybe in my 6th grade. Right. So that's when I first understood of all, I got an exposure of all these like your digital platforms. You are, for the first time ever, you're looking at videos and you're learning a concrete idea through videos. That was the first experience. So yeah, nowadays a lot of it are turning into digital platforms. So if you're going to a school that might have very limited resources, funds to afford these resources, or even uh, if you're going to a school with maybe not as qualified educators, the infrastructure is not that great. Because if I'm talking about a child with disability, and the infrastructure is not that great, and as in there's not enough space, there's overcrowding, the child cannot imagine a class of 50 students and one teacher. How do you think that would turn out to be, right? And imagine the teacher, for not them being trained well enough to manage a big crowd, or maybe a crowd with that even has children with disabilities, right? So these happens in socioeconomic people who are backward in these areas. And something that we're very commonly faced with is the physical health of these children, their nutrition, their health, not being given enough nutritious food, or they're not health might not be their utmost priority at the time, due to reasons. So even this can be a learning barrier, what the learning outcomes barrier. Now, coming to educational background of parents, I want you to think of this as well. Uh, like, if the parents who the parents, if they're not enough aware about, why do we do this, why should you, send your child to school, why should they get education, and why should they get proper education. All right, but not sending kids to school for the sake of it, right? Ultimately we have the goal of making them independent, having them acquire knowledge, making them a person for themselves, right? So if in it's a very common thing in social, who are people who are into backward economic statuses, where you know once the kid is about 13, 14, 15 years old, the priorities shift, so shift into something, let's get a job, we'll get a job and then you can start working, the breadwinner, that transition, that unfortunately also becomes a barrier to learning, right? And this is very common. I want you to think about the place that you come from, and the city you come from. Are there any rural areas near? Are there any backward areas near? Have you ever met them? Have you heard their stories or what they have to say? And most of them might have the interest to learn, uh, just that they've never had the opportunity, the proper resources, or even someone to, they wouldn't even know what their actual right to education is, and so on. Yeah. All right. Now, moving on to cultural and linguistic backgrounds. Uh, okay, so I want you to think about language barriers, as in, uh, I mean, different schools have different mode of instruction, a different language of instruction. They might have one very common one, and for other languages they might use different other subject areas, they might use different languages as well. So yeah, for a child who is not from the native place, who does not know the language of instruction, they are definitely going to struggle. And imagine a crowd of 40, 50 students and one teacher, and there is like two students who are not keeping up with the language. They're relatively new to the language, and for a general teacher, this is going to be a hassle. They I mean, what are the chances that they take the initiative, they take the extra time, extra energy, extra effort to to look into the trouble of this child. Where is the trouble lies? I'm not saying they're going to take the additional step and teach the child the language, or help the child in however way they can, but for them to check periodically, is this child having trouble, because this is not this child's primary language of communication, right? So language is definitely going to be a barrier. Now, talking about cultural attitudes towards education. When we just spoke about socio-economic status, and how the people who come from economically backward conditions, even like I said, with the example that I gave, after a point of age, after 15, 16 years of age, they would definitely want to move on to being the breadwinner of the family. They would want to start working, they want, because that's how the priority shifts, right? So the education might not be their next immediate step, uh, because again they don't have the funds to go for it. They are not even if they want to, or even if they can, there might not be a school anywhere near them. The traveling, hours of traveling and all of that. Yeah, in cultural backgrounds, some cultural backgrounds, that can be a problem, which again can be a barrier for learning. All right. Now moving on to emotional and psychosocial factors. So in emotional and psychosocial factors, the most important one is, children are often, I see children, and even the parents tell me, we teach him everything, he goes to school, he sits for his exam, and then he panics, he forgets everything, he's not able to recollect anything that he learned, he's not able to he might be able to recollect it at some point, and then but he's not able to bring it to his pen and paper, and so on. This one child is facing so many issues. He has this complete fear of exam. He does everything very well at home. Does it very well at when you're asking to him individually, but when it comes to the concept of exams, the thought of exams, that's when the panic hits. So that can be also a problem. So now how are we going to address it? Something that we personally do here is also to prepare the child. Once we know that the child has this aversion towards exams, he has this fear, a slight anxiety, he gets very, they start sweating, they're all panicked about this. To prepare them for these exams, what we do is we conduct like mock exams, and we conduct it very often. And what I try to do differently each time for him to be prepared for this exam is, I try to conduct it with a group of people. It can be anyone, and I would prefer if these people are people that he doesn't know. I'm trying to incorporate that environmental factors here. I'm trying to recreate that school setting where this child sits and he has to do his whatever it is. I'll give him a full piece of paper with questions and answers, and he has to do it on his own. So there are going to be multiple factors that might that might affect him. So I'll put a number of people who are going to be there. They might look at them, he might get tensed, he might that the thing. So firstly I need to see how he would perform, and then eventually a couple of times and very periodically I set this up for him, and I give him the heads up that next week we're going to have a exam session where you will be whatever we learned, whatever we're doing, we will be uh, attempting the questions and everything. So I want you to be prepared. And he comes because see, it's what I want to do, what him to do is whatever he learned, I want him to be able to recollect it, whenever it is required and use it. Right. That's all I would need him to be. But the barriers here are the environmental barriers, some intrinsic factors of his fear, anxiety, what if I get it wrong, and so on. So I tried to conduct, mock exams for him. And I'm really glad to say that this for this child it has been working very well. Whenever the mother say there was a term exam and then he did good, that so that was a success. Yeah. Now moving on to mental health support. Uh, most schools have, I would say, counselors who are trained in this, and but then again, there are schools who doesn't have such facilities. Uh, for them, I think even in my school, they did have it at some point. I've never seen a counselor up until I would say 10th or 11th grade, but after that, I've seen them. And for see, it should be first the teacher. Sorry, yeah, it should be the your primary teacher who should be able to identify if a child is maybe lagging behind a little bit. He's not able to keep up with the curriculum. Maybe some subject area he's finding it a bit difficult. He's not comprehending. He's not yeah, keeping up. So yeah, that's when a second opinion of a counselor would also be helpful. They would see how whether if it is any intrinsic factor, is it any extrinsic factor, they can talk to the child. They can like if it is something more than that, we can definitely get in touch with the parents. We can make a team for them, where we give them regular support. It can be weekly or monthly, just keeping a check on how the child is, because again ultimately this would lead to changes in learning outcomes, right? Now if we're talking about children who come from any sort of all right, yeah. So if you're talking about children who are in any way been a victim of abuse or trauma, it can be psychological abuse or physical of any sort, that is definitely going to be a factor as well. Ultimately that is going to, and this is a point where we would require professional help. uh, as long as for the teachers, they would have to identify it and address it immediately. And this is, definitely a call for professional help. Okay. All right. Now, moving on to learning environment and learning styles. So, this is a bit more broader area, and firstly, I would like to say that when a parent approaches me regarding schooling for their child, there are n number of things that they are worried about, and they have every right to be, because it's scary out there. The schools, the curriculum, what the expectations out of a child at a young age. It's scary to them. It's scary to me what the expectations are of a child. So when they come to me, I see, even I have n number of things that I want to tell them, but most importantly, the couple of things that I tell them are, look at the syllabus, look at the curriculum, talk to the teachers, you know, visit the school, look at the infrastructure of the school. What are their, what is their resource team like? Do they have a resource team? Do they have a resource room? Do they have special educators, counselors? You know what is their student teacher ratio like, what is their seating arrangements like, and especially if it's a child with disability, I would definitely ask them to think about uh, the kind of board, the syllabus, the curriculum that they are planning for their child. What are as in the resource room, the special educators, what kind of services do you have? Yeah, and then the technology that is there, the entire infrastructure of the school, that is definitely going to be a big factor. Yeah, and and then when we're moving on to learning styles, and I cannot stress this enough, I think out of all the things that we just talked about, I think this is a very important factor, because again, uh, parents say, or parents, or even maybe teachers say this thing where, I've taught him this 50 times, he's learned this 10 times, he's written this down, and the rote learning thing that children does, we've made him write it about 20 times, 30 times, he still doesn't know the answer, he still doesn't get the concept, and so on. So I want you to look at the very root cause of this. You see, you're telling me that the child has written it down 10 times and he's trying to memorize it. He's reading through it multiple times, and yet it is not registering. He's not able to store the information. So this is where learning style, is very important for us to identify the child's learning style. All right. So again, learning styles are of different types: auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and we have your read and write, or tactile, however you want to say it. And see, this is for any person. Learning styles are there. I'm not talking about any child. I want you to think about yourselves. What is the best way through which you learn? How do you store information? Like if I tell you, if I'm going to tell you, see, because my crowd right here is a bigger, I mean, who are a bit older, right? So if I am talking about, if I want you to learn, and if we are doing a quick activity, and I am giving you 10 words, 10 random words of things, uh, animals, flowers, colors, shapes, etc., and I want you to memorize it. So how are you planning to do it? Are you going to write it down about 50 times and then you're going to learn it? Or are you going to keep repeating it to yourself in your mind, silently? Or is that how you're going to learn it? Or are you going to maybe record a voice of yourself, saying this, and then are you going to play it over and over again, and then you're going to listen to yourself? And is that how you're going to learn it? Or maybe some other, are you going to make an activity out of it yourself? Are you going to write down all these words, and are you going to look through them, again and again? You're going to take out, and you're going to do the word mapping, where you're going to remember the, or you're going to just connect each word to something else that is subjective to you? Is that how you're going to learn it? So yeah, that's, for each of us it's different. Learning styles for each person is different. One of us might just learn something new by just listening to it. Like they can, for some kids they do that. You can just keep telling them something repeatedly. Just by listening to you, just by actively listening to you, they are going to store that information. But that's not the case for every child, right? Some kids need to have that visual input. They need to see it, they need to see the colors, the structure, the the functioning of it, if they're able to, so that they're able to retain it better through a visual mode. And there are also children who might need require both. So that can be an added benefit, when if they have the visual and auditory input, that's going to be even much better for them. And then you have your kinesthetic learners who might need hands-on experience. Just looking at a concept. See, these are for even maybe more abstract areas. You cannot just tell a child this happens. Like, if I'm going to say an example, I want you to think. I mean, this is not related to child, but I want you to think, if you're going to do cooking, I want you to learn a recipe of this particular dish that I know, and I want you to learn it. So, what do you think would be more effective? I'm just going to stand here, and we're going to have this one-way communication of me just dictating. We're going to do this. We're going to chop these. We're going to add these ingredients. We're going to, we're going to let's start making the dish. This is the step, and so on. And you do this, you do that. We do a lot of cooking, and that's how you get the product. Do you think that is going to be effective, or do you think or what an alternative to that could be? I'm going to set up a station for myself, and I'm going to set up a station for you. We're going to get all the ingredients, all the thing right. It is right there. It's all tangible. You have it. I have it and you have it. And I'm going to do demonstration. And so are you. You're going to do it yourself. So the hands-on experience. Right, you get to do it yourself. You are experiencing it yourself. Because all your senses are working very effectively right there. You are looking at it, you're getting the feel of it, you're getting to experience it, and that is going to, retain in your mind for a very, very longer time. Right. So that is when learning styles, and this is applicable to mostly in all our areas. Like from morning till night, whatever we do, through some way or the other, we learned it, right? If we look back, if we try to recollect, how did I learn how to cycle? You did not just start cycling just by looking at a video of cycling, right? You had to experience it. You had to go through the process of it, right? So this understanding, identifying, and applying these learning styles, this is also going to be a very, very big factor in a child's life. Again, their whoever their primary teacher should be one. They should be, they should be trained enough so that they can identify the child's learning style, and then help them better that way. Yes. Okay. Now, moving on to curriculum design. We had just talked about, when how I said, I mean, not all kids, but some kids can be perfectly fine. They can, keep up. They can learn new concepts. Maybe every day they can revisit those concepts in their mind. They're able to keep up. More, they can learn complex, even more complex concepts, but that's not the case of every child, right? That's when that's when we start questioning if this curriculum is right for this child. Is he going to be able to keep up with this in the long run? Right, occasionally I tell, if it's because I've had kids who are, you know, typical, and there's nothing as such, and by that what I mean is that they don't have as such cognitive deficits. They do not have any kind of neurological or neurodevelopmental conditions. What they might had was, maybe a little less exposure to learning, or to uh, maybe they've never had an actual uh, yeah, an actual exposure where they were given the opportunity to learn, to reproduce what they learned. So yeah, I've had, actually typically learning students, but there comes times when, the category of when they have when they are found to have cognitive deficits, or if it's an actual neurodevelopmental condition. So when this comes, I can never, go and tell them, you should follow this particular curriculum. This is what a typical child does, and this is for you as well. We should definitely abide by it. And no, that's not how it works, because I know for a fact that that is not going to work for them. The child is not able to, is not won't be able to keep up with it, and in the long run, we can definitely expect for such child to drop out. right? So it's very important what kind of curriculum design, what are there, what are we be setting them up for. So now in the first one, I'm talking about universal design for learning. Right, it was, I think, previously called as universal design and learning for all, like universal design for everyone. Right. So basically, just the core idea behind universal learning is a design for learning is that, engagement. So I'm going to talk about few things: engagement, representation, and expression of the child. Right. So when I'm talking about engagement, so this is where our learning style, this is where their interest, this is where our motivation of the child, this is where everything comes together, and this is where we're going to, start, planning what's best for the child. Right, in engagement, when we're teaching something new, when you're planning on introducing something new to your child, so there can be n number of ways to teach them something new. But for us to make this child centered, for us to make this specific to them, very customized to them, that's going to be a very important factor. The kind of activities that you plan for them, the kind of assessments that you're going to implement for them, the kind of can be anything. It can be, it can be, understanding the learning styles and how you're going to use that to create activities for them and so on. Now, talking about representation, um, how do you expect the child to, what are your expectations of the child? You plan all these out for your child, the activities, the assessments. See, because all of this, I want you to understand that we're doing this that is very customized to the child. Right, we're going to create activities, we're going to make lesson plans based on where the child's strength are there, what where their challenges are. So we're going to, remodify it into a way that is more beneficial to them. Right. So in engagement, representation, and even expression of the child. So are you going to just give them you know, I mean, there is no, I'm not giving you a standardized way of how we want to always check it. Are you just going to give them a piece of paper with about 20 questions, and then you expect them to answer, or with the perfect objective type of questions, subjective type of questions? So how are you planning on assessing if the child has achieved the skill or not, if the child has retained it or not, if he has comprehended it or not? So all these areas, the principles, the core idea behind universal design for learning is definitely engagement, representation, and expression. This is, how this is again very important of how you're going to let the child express how they've learned it. Are you just going to, I mean, it can again be different in different ways. Are you just going to ask them questions? Are they going to verbally answer it? Are you going to conduct um, formative assessments? And how is that even going to be? Right. Now moving on to this RTI pyramid. I've added this picture right here. I hope you can see it. It's of a triangle where it's written tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And I want you to look closely at it and let me explain what it is. Right. In level 1, in tier 1, you have your classroom full of students, about maybe 30, 40 students, and then you have your one teacher, and the teacher gives you your instructions, I mean, they're teaching you, they give your, I mean, they teach you through, maybe it could be a lecture method, it could be, it could be in a fun-based way, or however it is. You're in your level 1 is basically the group of 30 to 40 students, acquiring information from the teacher. So about 80% or 70 to 75% of children are definitely, they might find it okay. They are able to keep up with the portions. They are able to understand, comprehend, restore, I mean, store the information and retain it. So, but the rest 20 to 25% students might not be able to do it. Who would, go to the level 2, where you will take a targeted to group of students who did not grab the information they were like how they were expected to. They seem to be lagging behind, right? So that's when you're going to filter out students and find out these students who are not able to keep up, and you give them the targeted instruction. You find out where they're lacking behind, and then you modify your teaching strategies, you modify the way you teach, focus more on their learning styles, and you do better assessments for them. But when you come to level 3, so these are children even with better targeted intervention, they're not able to understand, they're not able to grab the topic, right? They're not able to store the information, they're not able to, they're not able to process it. So this is when we would consider we might need to look closer, we might need to maybe ask for a professional help, because after this level 3 we're definitely giving them for a referral for special education. That's when we would require more specialized, because even then after that, because we might have to do a psychological assessment, a special education assessment, where does this gap lie, where is this coming from, and what can we do, because it starts from level 3. So from level 1 to where you have about 30 to 40 students, in level 2 there goes only about 5 to 6 students who cannot keep up with the that ratio of 40 is to 1 students. And from level 2 it goes on to level 3, where even with targeted intervention they're not able to keep up. So after this point we will definitely refer them for special education. Yes. Okay, so now moving on to family dynamics. This is again yet another important factor that sometimes we might overlook. Sometimes parents themselves, might overlook this. If your child is coming from a dysfunctional family, if it's a family where there are, constant bickering, constant whatever contributes to a child's psychological or physical or emotional needs at their home, that is definitely going to affect their learning outcomes. Because I want you to think about a child coming from a very nourishing, very encouraging, a very inquisitive background, and a child who might not have had that opportunity. So that is definitely going to be a barrier as well. And if it is reported to to be running in the family, because when a child comes here, one of the very important thing is we collect is the history, to rule out or to just be aware if there is any such similar, if it is a learning difficulty or a disability, or if it has been reported, or for us to keep track of any such things running in the family, so that we can take the steps for it. Yes, I've written this one line here. Yeah, it would be the answer of what I asked very first. School readiness starts at home. You might think schooling and education process might start from, LKG or KG1, KG2, or first grade, but your learning process that absolutely starts by birth, and it starts from your home, and your very first, teachers are going to be your parents. Yes. All right. Now I've mentioned a lot of things that would require you for you to get professional help. You'll have to get in touch with professional psychologists, rehabilitation professionals, and once the teacher understands, or they notices red flags that the child is not functioning as he or she should be, at this age, at this grade, at this level, he should be able to do more things, but he's not doing it. You've given them multiple instructions, you've ruled out all other areas, it's not the syllabus, it's not the environment, so what is it then? So that is it, when you're going to get in touch with a professional, right? Is it any kind of intellectual disability? So you'll have to get your IQ assessment done, you have to get your learning disability screening done. Or is it ADHD? So is it also another neurodevelopmental disorder that the child may have? Or it could be a medical condition like seizures. If the child has any history of seizures, that also is definitely going to impact his learning. Or is it going to be, like visual impairment, hearing impairment? Even these two disabilities is not directly linked with the child's IQ deficits or anything, but having a limitation here is going to directly contribute to their learning outcomes. It is going to be a barrier for them. So once this has been identified, your immediate step is to do the next plan. What is the intervention for them? What is going to be their individualized education program? So where should we start? So this is again where early intervention comes very, very important. So now I would like to talk about what happened, because this is like we previously talked about this, COVID and what happened during COVID and post COVID. uh, you know, uh, the mode of learning switched to online, and this was a problem if it was a socially, economically backward community. They were not able to, convert or attend sessions online. And if it is teachers, not a lot of teachers were properly trained or equipped, or there were, news about this where teachers doesn't, I mean, they're not properly trained enough, or even in platforms like Zoom or Google Meet, they don't know how to operate it. So that can also become a barrier for children, right? And what happened post COVID is, this has been actually a very um, very common pattern that we see as well. Is if I see a child who's coming here around age 7, 8 or 9, 6, 7, 8, 9, I would talk to their parents about what their schooling was like when they were in LKG, UKG, and grade one, grade two, because it's very likely they attended online classes during COVID time. And some parents, they openly tell me, like, Sonia, I want to be honest with you. My child has never even attended the online class. I was the one who attended the online class, and my child was running around. That's it. So, the gap, after 2 years of online classes, they come to grade one, and then the children are completely blank. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what they're doing in a classroom. I mean, they have all these children around them, and they're not even used to this. They're not used to about 10 to 50 students sitting around them as well. So yeah, that has also further impacted a child's learning outcomes. And even COVID time has also added psychological issues of, again, fear, anxiety. A child who has never sat in a classroom full of 10 to 20 students ever, he is directly being kept, he's being sent to a school out one day, and then he is, the expectations out of him is too much. He's expected to sit for about 6 hours in a day, in his table and chair. He's expected to listen to the teacher. He has expected to perform. And that's where because something is never done before, that is also going to be a problem. Yes. So moving on, I've actually, it's like a case study that I wanted to show you an example of, how when a child came, how he was, and then what we did with him. Right. So this is one child who came to me when he was about 10 years. And at the time he was in grade 4, and he was attending state board. Right. Because if I'm talking about his history, he did LKG and UKG in a CBSE board, and then parents immediately identified that it was really troubling for him, and they switched his syllabus to state board. Right, and their initial concerns were reading, writing, maths. He's not able to, remember anything that he's learned. He's not able to, properly. If you even if it is something that he's learned and you're asking him to later, he's not able to recollect it and so on. So our first process was obviously a proper psychological evaluation, a special education evaluation. So after the psychological assessment, it was understood that he had borderline intellectual function. It is not average, it was just below average. So we had to find the core cause of what caused his learning issue. So then we sat down. We were the team of psychologists, special educators, the parents, the child, whoever the child is primarily equipped with. We sat down. We made a plan for him. So I've written at the bottom that his duration of therapy was 1 year. So yeah, we sat down. As his special educator, what I had to do was the immediate step was rapport building. I had to be his friend first, and I had to check what works for him, what might not work for him. I had to understand his learning style. I had to make strategies specific to him, and so on. So yeah, differentiated instruction is what came handy first, and then the learning style, and ultimately, group sessions for generalization. Because if this child is going to, after 6 months of therapy, and I understood his learning style, his learning method, what strategy works for him, and he's doing it. He's doing it well. He's overcome a lot of challenges, and he's doing it well with me. But then he goes back to school and he's not able to keep up. That's when group sessions come. That's when I recommend to parents, you need to take the session with another child, or two child, three child. Let's make it a group of three. Because for him to be able to sit in school, listen to group instructions, do accordingly, that is a whole other thing. So that's when, even in special educations, we recommend group sessions. And then again, regular assessments need to be done for this child. This is from even my understanding. If the child learning, is he able to keep up? Is the strategy working, or should I change it? Should I modify it? Is this one strategy that worked earlier, is it not working anymore? So this is where I have to be updated about the child as well. So this was the intervention plan for this child, and I'm very, very happy to say that we were able to switch him back to CBSE board this academic year onwards. Now he is able to attend CBSE board. He's able to sit in his class with his peers. He's able to perform. He's able to attend his exam with very limited, with very less stress. We've been able to prepare him well for it. He's able to, continue with his schooling journey better now that he got the help that he required. Yes, so this one last thing that I wanted to say is that for a child to be, the best, to get the best learning outcome from them, what we have, I've categorized it into a few, strengthen school-based factors, as in, the bond, the rapport that the child has with the teacher, the kind of teacher that you are, how professional you are, how are you managing your children, how personal are you with your students, how professional are you with your students, how are you updated with the strategies, how are you, are you going for the one size fits all approach, or are you trying to make a difference? Are you trying to, identify if any child is being left behind? And even more, using of evidence based practices, such as, conceptualized learning. You teach your child something, and you make sure that the child understands the concept, or are they just remembering very rotely for a brief time, or other evidence based, you let your child, you give the child an opportunity to express themselves. You let them do the reflective answering. You teach a child a concept, and you let them reflect on it, and you let them relate to it, and then you listen to the child, what they have to say. You let them, give the opportunity to give you examples. Has this happened to you? Has this, does this make sense to you? Is this relatable to you? Right. And then again, we're back to the resources that the child has rights to. Now, the middle subpoints that's listed down are factors that would, uh, you know, that's going to be risk factors, because in their learning journey there are definitely going to be different barriers at different points. Now, is the child getting proper emotional and social regulations? Is there a counselor? Is there a social worker? Is there even a teacher who is able to listen to them where they are finding it difficult? Or if the school is a safe place for them, is it very, is it appropriate for them? Is this a school appropriate for this particular child? So you have to look at all these factors. And then moving on to what are out of school factors, but which will still affect their learning. Family and their community engagement, which we've already talked about, the kind of family that they come from, how educated are they, how well aware are they, and even extracurricular programs. It's not you cannot expect your child to go through 8 hours or 6 hours of studying and then no kinds of extracurricular activities or something that they like, that they want to do, and so on. Even school-based welfare services like counselors and social workers, or even schools conduct these sessions for better interpersonal skills, how to manage academics and your personal life and so on. Such children should be able to get such classes as well. Right. So, all of these factors that we just talked about are definitely going to make an impact on a child's learning outcome. It definitely starts at home, the parents that you have, the environment that you have, the environment that you are going to send your children to, what they experience there, or is it anything intrinsic or extrinsic? The best people to identify this is are definitely going to be parents and teachers who they are primarily, associated with. Right. So I'm sorry I've taken another extra 5 minutes, but I'll just wind it up now. And yes, even at Prayatna, we have more than 20 years of experience, and we have multiple services here. We have multiple departments. We do IQ tests. We do special education screening, learning disability screening. We have occupational therapy, speech therapists, ABA therapy, parents counseling. We have a whole wing for rehab. We have adult clients as well as children who are aged from about one to actually one and above. We have a wing for early intervention as well as for adult cases. We have very well trained therapists who are well qualified and trained enough to be to take care of your little ones, and where to identify where their trouble lies, and to set a plan for them, so that we can give them what they need. Right, they might not have had that chance before, that tailored instruction for them, that tailored uh, approach for them, that we can provide from here. So I've also added two contact numbers that you can maybe you can we'll definitely share this later. You can also keep this down. You can contact these numbers that is provided there, if in case any if you would like to reach out to us in the future. We would love to have you as well. Yes.
Ma'am, we have a question from Priya. How can we help foster a love for learning in children who may find academic tasks challenging?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was saying, for to instill that love for learning, it is going to be a mix of everything that I just mentioned. You're going to be their friend to begin with. You're going to find out what they like, what they don't like, and if they do have any past experiences in learning where uh, something has triggered them, something has made them have this aversion towards learning, we're going to avoid it in the beginning. Eventually we are going to address it, but for the time being we're going to avoid what they don't like. We're going to build a foundation on what they like, what the kind of activities they like, the subject area that they like. You're going to base activities based on it, because even these days there are a lot of materials even available online, or you can make it specific for your child. And it's a learning process. Children are definitely going to make mistakes, but make sure that you don't kill their confidence in it. You don't you don't say anything negative that is going to affect their self-esteem. What if it could be the smallest of the smallest progress that they did, one thing that they did that they are very proud of, but and so should we. Right, because this is not going to be a very overnight process that they're going to learn this, or they are going to have this love for learning. This is going to be take a very long time for them to, but it's going to happen day by day. So providing them that nurturing and very encouraging environment, that is definitely going to play a role. And also maybe tell them why are we doing this, because sometimes children don't understand why we're doing what we're doing. That is going to be a factor. Why are we learning this? Because sometimes parents have this concern, he forgets everything after he learned it. He learned it today, he went to the exam, he forgot it, because they don't understand why we're doing this, right? So, and we cannot even blame them. It's their little minds, and I'm not here to blame them. So, try to communicate to them, try to talk to them. We want to learn this because we want to go to shops, we want to do this. I want you to learn this because we're going to use it later. Try to you cannot expect a child to come up to your level, up to your cognition and function that way. So what we're going to do is go down to their level, check what works for them, check what they are able to understand, and then we're going to cater everything according to them. So I want you to try this and see how it is working out for the child. And again, I have to emphasize this again, that a lot of this is going to be trial and error. I have to be very transparent with it, that not everything is going to work for your child, and something that previously worked might not work again, so you'll have to change it again. So it's going to be a long process of checking what your child likes, what is working for him, what is not. But you keep trying, you keep being the best facilitator that you are for the child. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We have another question from Rajalakshmi. How to make the child of grade 5 concentrate and to improve in his academics as there is no guidance for him after his school session completes?
All right. So I would have to check, again, where does the exact cause lies? Is it any one particular subject, or is it all the subjects? And is there a very generalized dislike towards studies? It's grade 5, there is a lot of subjects, there is a lot of learning, a lot of hours, the child is expected to do a lot. So I have to first, we'll have to rule out, is it something, what is the cause? Does he not like the subject, or does he?
Ma'am, she has mentioned it's all the subjects.
Right, it's all the
All.
subjects. Okay, so I would like to make this very, very, uh, I hope everyone knows that no child is ever, born with an inherent disliking towards learning. Somewhere along the way they acquire maybe a dislike or a disinterest, or like, why should I study, or this doesn't make sense to me, so why should I try? Why am I doing this? Because I've seen very actually smart students, but the only reason they're so smart and they're doing so well is because me, and along with me, the parents keep badgering the child to study. So they're very smart, but it's like, why are we doing this? I don't want your class today. They tell me this. I don't want to attend your class today, Chechi. They tell me this. And I feel so bad because I'm not able to explain it to them. So first, what we will have to do is we have to identify where the core cause lies. Why does the child not like it? Has he had any past experiences where maybe some teacher said something that has stayed with him ever since, or maybe he's afraid of getting it wrong. He's afraid he'll get laughed at, he'll get mocked at. Is it that, or is he not able to get understand it? Is comprehension what is difficult? He's not able to understand what the teacher is saying, or is it something else? Is it anything even more, should we start looking up at other professionals who might, uh, the parents are going to be definitely the, you know at the best at looking, if just take a look at if he's performing as well as his peers, or is it like a very common pattern in his class group. So then we'll have to look at the kind of teachers that they have, the kind of curriculum that they follow. Are they not being given proper guidance to follow that curriculum? So we'll have to sit and look at the child's case exactly for me to properly say. So I would recommend you to, maybe you can get in touch with me personally, and I can definitely check where exactly his trouble lies. Because if it's going to be all subjects, that's definitely going to be some fear, maybe the factor of interest, or if it's anything else that we need to rule out or diagnose, and we can do that as well.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. There's another question from Panchalinkam. Uh, how to inculcate reading habit? Nowadays, students are addicted to mobiles.
Yes, yes. So that's another result of our COVID era, right? children being a bit, not a bit, being more glued to their screen. And for us to what I would do is, and what I would suggest is, let's incorporate reading, like start at 5 minutes a day, not more. I'm not, for a child who has never maybe got an experience in reading, or he doesn't like reading, maybe he doesn't know the foundation of reading. I don't expect them to jump into reading straight up for half an hour a day, or an entire chapter or so on. So let's inculcate. So first you'll have to, the child is fine in reading, the foundation is there. If the child has learned reading through phonics, through the science of phonics, or if it is by sight, however it is the child able to read a two-letter word, a three-letter word, maybe words from the same family, same word family, or if it is a different word, is he able to read it to begin with? You have to check if the foundation is there. So once you're sure that your child knows how to read, and if it's the maybe the factor of just interest, he's not that interested, he doesn't listen to me, he's more interested in, because some children say, I did my schooling from 9 to 3 o'clock, now it's my playtime, it's my family time, it's my TV time, and so on. So this is going to be a very clear negotiation with your child. You're going to sit down with your child, and you're going to have this routine with them. And again, this is a very important factor to, we want, what we want is a very disciplined learner. So for them to, I'm not saying a lot, but starting with 5 minutes a day, we're going to do this, and it's very clear negotiation that if you do this, you can have your screen, your play time, your 10 minutes watching video time after this. Right. And from 5 minutes, we're going to make it 10 minutes. We're going to make it 15 minutes. Along the way, we're going to reduce the screen time. From what it used to be 30 minutes, it's going to be 25 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however you want to, however you want to plan it out. But what's important here is proper negotiation with your child, that you're going to do this today, this is what we agreed upon, this is our schedule, so this is your time for reading, and you're going to do this. So if you're not going to do this, then you're not going to get your reward, which is going to be your TV time, or which again I do not support a lot. But this is going to be, I cannot just completely turn off the TV and complete access to it, that is going to cause other problems. But to negotiate with them, to learn them, for them to learn us what I am planning from this. So children need to get a clear understanding. Okay, she is going to let me make me read for 5 minutes. Maybe then I'll get my play time. So it's going to be a clear negotiation with your child. Yeah, that is going to be the solution for that.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. Ma'am, we have another question. Yeah. How can parents know the child is facing learning difficulties? They may initially blame the school, and as the time goes by, academic outcome worsens. So, do you have any suggestion for parents?
Right. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't blame, or I wouldn't put the term it's a learning disability, difficulty, or so on in my first observation of a child. Maybe he's going through a few bad days. Maybe he's struggling with getting a concept initially, or maybe maybe he's sick, or he hasn't had the chance to properly function, or so on. So, but what changes all that, and when we're going to start addressing this, and when it might become a problem, is when this is prolonged for a long period. You get your child, he's going to school morning to evening, he has a good teacher, he has good peers who are very interested in learning. He has proper nutrition, a very good and involved parents who was very involved in his learning as well. But and for your additionally you give him tuition as well. You're sure that he's getting all the proper inputs. And but then again, for maybe you look at it, it's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, exams are being conducted, tests are being conducted, the child is not doing as well as his peers, right? And this has been a maybe a 5 months, 8 months, 1 year. 1 year has gone, one grade has gone, he's in a different class now. So that's when it's time to think, okay, there might be something more that maybe a professional can help you with. Okay, because there's nothing wrong with consulting someone, a psychologist, a special educator, because at the end of the day, if it's nothing else, you can at least rule it out. right? It might not be exactly a disability or a difficulty or any other area. You can rule it out. You can see what, you can hear them out, what we can do in this area. Right? Maybe still all the time children might not, they might not open up to you. They're not maybe going to tell you, I faced this today, so that is why I am not able to learn. Maybe they might open up to someone who's better at it. Right. So, one red flag that I would definitely ask you to, keep looking at is how long has they been facing these, issues, in what all areas? Is there any subject area that is very specific? What is their pattern? Do they not seem to understand what is being said, or is that are they not being able to recollect it? Where exactly the, difficulty lies? You can also note that as well. And I would definitely ask you to get a professional help. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am,
Thank
for
you, ma'am, for
that.
that.
Uh,
Uh,
we have
we have
another
another
question
question
from
from
Shyam.
Shyam.
What are the challenges in defining learning outcomes?
What are the challenges in defining learning outcomes? Okay. Um, maybe, a general person might not be able to, put a tag on this is why the child is not able to study. This is not because there is going to be maybe a lot, maybe less, maybe a specific areas, where we can pinpoint and say where, this is the area where the difficulty lies. So what we can do is, if you're a parent, talk to your child, talk to their teachers, talk to the who the child spends most of their time. In schools, their coordinator, class teacher, however we call it. Ask them, whatever patterns they show at school. Like, are they a bit socially withdrawn? Do they not interact with their peers as such? They're not actively involved. They do not show as, as interest in studying. They tend to, be a bit more aloof. They tend to pull out a little bit. Is it there? Are there any such factors there? What we're doing is we're basically collecting information uh, from the very from the persons who are very close to the child. We're trying to collect because we're trying to put it all together and try to make sense out of it, right? So there's going to be n number of factors that we find out, or there's not going to be much. And in such cases, I would say, so maybe the child is going through a couple of bad days. Maybe he's sick and that's affecting his learning outcome. Some things are going to be internal. We might not even be able to realize it. And some things, like I said, maybe some teacher said something, maybe some child said something, at some environment that has stayed with the child, and that we're completely unaware about. So that is, and the child even, imagine the child is about 6 to 7 years old, 5, 6, 7 years, and he is not able to properly convey it to us. Like, mom, this happened and that affect, they cannot put it into words exactly that this affected my self-esteem, so this is going to be affecting my education. They cannot say that. So a lot of observation is going to go into this. You're going to check the child's behavior, his patterns. Is he showing any kind of aversion when when he's asked to learn, when he's asked to sit and study? You're going to completely observe. You're going to sit together and see what everyone thinks about this. And then obviously, if you're not able to come to an exact, this is just for your primary caregivers and teachers, right? If you're not able to come to a particular conclusion, then definitely again you might have to go to a professional who's going to help you with this. And they are going to need your help as well, because you're the parents, and you're the teachers, and you're the siblings, and even the professionals are going to be able to need your help, and we're going to sit down together and find it out.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. We have one more last question by Priya. Nowadays, children tend to get distracted very often. Moreover, their listening skill is getting worsened despite repeated instructions and directions. What could be the course of action for this?
Right, okay. uh, So, just to be on the same page, and just to be on the same page as the child, let's just confirm that we're using what, the learning styles that works for them, the strategies that works for them. Maybe starting with concept areas, curricular areas that they like. Some children, some children just tell me, can we do English today? I don't feel like doing maths, because I know they don't like math. So, I have to negotiate with them. Okay, let's do just two sums today. Let's do some two computation of two sums today, and then we can do English or something like that for them to, I'm trying to be on the same page as him, but I don't want to, push him too much. Right. And then, something else is that because this is very common, and a couple of red flags is that when teachers complain, parents complain that the child does not sit any one place. He keeps running around, he distracts other children. He's physically not able to sit down and do that thing of 8 to 4 o'clock, 8 to 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock session, schooling timing, right? So I would actually recommending, is he the same at home? Is he the same at school? Is he the same at a supermarket or at a guest when guests are over, when he is somewhere else as a guest? Does he show this, impulsivity, hyperactivity? Because I would definitely want to rule out ADHD. Right. Because that again, observe your child. Is he the same way? The not listening, the always being distracted, always being running around, and this pattern, is he showing it in all settings, or is it just when he's asked to sit and study? You have to rule it out. So if it's just not, if it's just about studying, then we'll have to check again. We'll have to maybe tailor whatever we're planning to teach him according to, we can start from where he likes. And again, when I always advocate for child centered, fun based, activity based, what the child likes, I'm not saying that should be it. We can eventually turn it back to things that he does not, as he does not like as much. Eventually we are going to come there, but for us to start somewhere, it is definitely going to be what the child likes. Right. So one thing is very, very important. Look at your child's, their behavior, how they respond to different environments. And if it is something that we need to address immediately, like ADHD, because that is not going to look like a proper disability or something to you, because they're actually very smart. They have perfect IQ, they have average IQ, they have proper concepts, but they don't listen to you. They keep running around, they avoid you, they're very impulsive. All they like is playing and so on. So it manifests itself in a different way. So yeah, I would actually love for you to talk to a professional and rule out if it's something else. Yeah.
Ma'am, there's one last question from Mirshal. If a teacher identifies a learning disability in a child, how to communicate and make the parents understand and accept? It's very challenging.
Right, right. That's a very good question, actually. So once you realize that you take your child to a professional, it's been identified that he is being faced with a disability. So I would say the very, very, very first step would be to psycho educate the parents. What is this condition? Because this terminology can be new to them. They might not be much aware, and if you just say if it's just learning disability, or what causes it, where does it come from, in what areas is it going to be shown in your child, what are the symptoms, and do you relate to this, do you think your child has seen this, this is the result of the assessment, and you're going to show them where exactly the difficulty lied, and they're going to be able to relate to it. Right. Okay, that's true, because we've seen these kind of characteristics from him. So a lot of it is going to be sensitization and addressing their disability and what it's like, what how difficult it is for them, to and how it's going to impact this. And you'll have to be you have to give them that that awareness as well. This is how his schooling is going to be like, but with the right services, the earlier the better. This is how we can make him better, this make this better for him. We have communicating to them what you have planned for your child, what we have planned for your child, how are we going to execute for it, making the parent familiar with the team, your special educator, your psychologist. And because we want them to be as, again, because they're going to be faced with a very difficult challenge, right? They're being informed that their child has some sort of disability, a learning disability, because every parent would expect their child to be the smartest kid. They want them to have a very bright future, very good educational experience, right? So what we're going to do is make this easier for him. How? Okay, so we're going to make them the best possible student that they are. So for that, this is what we're planning for them, and these are the methods, approaches, evidence based practices that has been already proven good for children. So this is what we're going to plan for them. So we're going to equip, make them aware, desensitize them, educate them, what is the next step. We're not just going to tell them your child has a learning disability and this is going to be it, this is a neurological condition, neurodevelopmental condition, and your child is going to have to live with it. That's not how it works. You have to tell them what is the next step. How can we make this easier for you, for your child? Because we want them to be independent, read, learn, write, do math, do all this on their own. So we have to give them the solution, give them plan with them, with the parents.